Welcome to Fun with Annuities with your host, me, Stan the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent. Can annuities be fun? Can contractual guarantees be fun? Absolutely they can. Find out the brutal facts about annuities with no sales pitches or high-pressure nonsense. Just the brutal and factual annuity truth, which is all you need to hear. Let's have some fun with annuities, and let's have that fun start right now. Welcome to Fun with Annuities. I'm your host, Stan, the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent. I'm so glad you joined me today. We actually have royalty in our midst. Her name is Sheryl Garrett. I'm going to talk to her for the full time period and maybe go over that because she is so knowledgeable and I'm so happy that she's here. But let me tell you a little bit about her, and then I'll have her go into details about who she is and how she came to this place of fame in the financial planning world. She's the co-founder of Garrett Investment Advisors, now known as CGN Advisors, and she's been called the All-American Planner because she is kind of the starter of this fee-only, hourly-based financial planning model. She started Garrett Planning Network in 2000. She's been recognized 6 times by Investment Advisor magazine as one of the most influential people in financial planning. We could keep going. She's won just about every award out there. And a recent podcast guest who I had on, Rick Ferry, is a protege of hers. And she said before we went on that she's the kind of the leader of his fan club and vice versa. Mm-hmm. But both of them pound the table on simplistic fee-only planning. And I think that's very, very important. I mean, she has been in front of Congress and the House Subcommittee on Financial Services. She has authored and co-authored several, books and done magazine columns. I mean, you're going to know who she is because you're going, oh, wait a minute, I read something with her. She's been in everything. And she's written books like Garrett's Guide to Financial Planning, Just Give Me the Answers, the last S is a $, Money Without Matrimony, Personal Finance Workbook for Dummies, etc. We could keep going on, but Sheryl Garrett is even President Obama recognized her as just for the things that she's done in this country. And she continues to give, and we're going to go into that. But without further ado, rock star Sheryl Garrett, welcome to Fun with Annuities.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, but I'm completely humbled.
Well, you should, you've
who's this other person?
No, you've accomplished a lot in the world of financial advice where there's more bad than good.
It's easy to stand out among the crowd.
I guess you're right about that. Tell me, let's go back to 1999, going into 2000, mm-hmm. and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? Pioneers take all the arrows. Why don't I start a planning network?
Yeah.
Take us through that.
It wasn't any thought along those lines. Well, not quite. A little bit of my brain went there, but most of it was, I was out there employed by myself saying, I can serve my clients the best way that I feel they need to be taken care of. I have the freedom and liberty to go wherever and access whatever it is that they need. And I charge for my time. I don't charge for assets. I don't charge by their body weight mass index or any other squirrely kind of measurement, but just for my time. And it seemed quite simplistic. And I was finding out that I was getting a lot of attention within our industry because I was doing something so abnormal as to not manage money and not sell products. And I still got paid for the time that I was spending. And so, it all basically boils down to, what do you have? We all make money, but we all make money in different ways. And as a general practitioner, financial planner type of person, I would talk to people about all different kinds of subjects from, can we afford to relocate? If we did, should we add that room? How should I take a distribution? Investments, insurance, that may be part of it, but a lot of it is cash flow. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
it's dreams and ambitions and fears and how can we cope with the mother-in-law moving in? And, there's a lot of personal, financial, economic, psychological things that are coming together all at once. And I see the generalist planner's role as to kind of help clients see through all of that and reach out to the appropriate specialists when they need certain products or services fulfilled for the clients. And so I started deciding to, I was going to offer this service to individuals selling my time. And I was actually at the point where I didn't know whether they would sit down for a meeting. But within a couple of years, it became such a beloved service in my city of Kansas City at the time that I had to stop taking new clients. Within 2 years. That's how
Mm-hmm.
simply by charging for my time and finding that there's an awful lot of people that need advice and need to bounce off ideas, or I've just been offered something, can I take advantage of it? How
Mm-hmm.
will it fit in? And that kind of thing. And so it just provided that unique way of access. And I got contacted by a whole lot of advisors around the country. And they said, I want to do what you're doing. And I didn't know whether we would have a dozen study buddies around the country
Mm-hmm.
that help support each other to, be able to serve our clients without going insane, or if we would turn into, a multi-thousand member, um, well, kind of the fee only equivalent to a broker dealer, as one of my early colleagues had suggested that we do. And I said, well, um, I'm a lot more about flexibility and the practitioner, the professional's personal judgment, because they're the ones on the hook. I don't want to be dictating for people. But I found out that there was a lot of people interested in this, and aligning yourself with like-minded peers, regardless of the
Mm-hmm.
industry that you're in, is usually a dang good thing. And the fact that we can help support each other, there's an immense amount of opportunity to help people out there. And we just, like you had found out in your discussions with Rick Ferry, by charging for your time, there's no barrier to entry other than, how much time do I need to spend with you? And are you willing to pay for that? And if so, we can get going. So it's pretty clear, transparent, and it applies to the areas of personal finance that most of the time advisors don't get paid to focus on. And often that's where we do need to spend some serious time in addition to traditionally paid areas. So I like the ability to be truly holistic and go where the client needs me to go.
We're talking to Sheryl Garrett, and she has created a firm called the Garrett Planning Network,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have a permanent page on our site for her, so you can go to these links if you want to write it down. It's Garrett, GARRETT, Planning Network, all one word, .com. And what it is what she just described. It's in essence it's not a broker dealer, but it's a conglomeration of fee only advisors across the country that follow the same type of principles that Sheryl initially laid out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's interesting, Sheryl, is I come from the broker dealer world of Dean Witter, Payne Weber, Morgan Stanley,
Mm-hmm.
UBS, where we transitioned from transactional. I was there during the transactional years to then
Mm-hmm.
it's fee based, where
Mm-hmm.
it's based on an asset under management. But what I think is fantastic is what's happening right now, and you're the pioneer of this, which is it's not about the assets under management, and you hear the advertising on TV without mentioning names that, we're sitting on your side of the table,
Mm-hmm.
when your portfolio goes up, we get paid more, etc.
Mm-hmm.
They also get paid when it goes down. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting them down, and I'm not going to call them
Mm-hmm.
out. They do enough advertising. We know who they are. But Do you see this as a trend that keeps growing? Because obviously it runs contrary to the broker-dealer fee-based on assets under management model.
Hmm. I definitely see it growing from the public perspective. The industry isn't really interested. Those providers,
Mm-hmm.
advisors out there, it's more lucrative
Sure.
to work with a very wealthy client, managing everything. And some of it doesn't take a heck of a lot of management.
Right.
But those individuals may be able to justify paying a substantial sum for your attention. Most Americans or most humans don't qualify for that level of expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to pick good words that
That was
don't it.
nice. That was nice.
Yeah, they don't it's kind of like we could hire a nanny, a live-in nanny to take care of our children, or we could get a really great babysitter. And
That's a really good correlation. That's really
depending
good.
on what you need and how much you want to pay and can pay,
Mm-hmm.
we still want great care for our children. It's just, do you need an occasional help, or do you need somebody to live in and take care of everything? And I would like people to look at it that way, because a whole bunch of you are paying for it, the full-time attention and care, and you're not really getting much for it. And that's because there's not much to get. I think a regular review of your personal finances and all aspects is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
What's regular, that's going to depend on your situation and what's going on in your life. With most people, I find that cash flow happens or hopefully happens, but is it happening where it's going out more than it's going in?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have these other things like, our underlying insurance, which I was having a pretty significant conversation last evening with a family member regarding property and casualty insurance costs, and my
Mm-hmm.
concern, and actually it's
Mm-hmm.
unraveling, and I mean, maybe not quite unraveling, but almost, in Florida. And people that live in really frequently storm hit areas. I live in Tornado Alley.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, or at least in the last approximately year, and I'm sure it's going to continue, is roofs in Florida. If you don't have a new roof, you might lose your insurance carrier. And these are the types of things that
Mm-hmm.
someone with a holistic approach to financial planning and advice tries to think about, for their clients. Whereas, if I were a stockbroker or a money
Mm-hmm.
manager or an annuity provider, I'd be focusing on those areas. And so that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of hourly or time-based advice
Yeah.
for the big picture stuff, and then going to the independent specialists for the specific things. Because just to think about what could happen and look at our risks. One area that I'm I tend to be early about everything.
Yeah,
Uh,
obviously. Yeah, you're way early on this one. That's an understatement.
yeah, I do tend to be a bit early to things, maybe 20 or 30 years. I think it was probably 30 or 35 years ago, I called for Blockbuster Video to go out of business because of streaming video.
Sure.
I was just a few decades early. Maybe a couple. But I really see that, everybody has questions about their personal finances. And
Sure.
I do have to agree, our industry hasn't done anything to make it easier. And thank goodness for you, Stan, to be out there putting some bits of clarity and wisdom, and help clear the muck for people, which is also something I try to do in my area, because there's so much garbage
Sure.
and a lot of just plain confusion.
Yep.
And how we're motivated, the influences that we may get.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the work that I've done with my certified financial planning background, I got into, actually, we may have talked about this at one time, but I think your audience would enjoy it. I was being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal one time, And I said that I felt most Americans would be best suited to take their monthly pension payout from their pension plan upon
Mhm.
retirement.
Mhm.
And I received a telephone call from an attorney and me being in Kansas, on the Kansas City area, on the Kansas side. And I got a call from Sacramento, California, a couple days later. An attorney from there was working on a series of lawsuits where advisors encouraged individuals that were retiring or had early retirement available or option through their employer. That advisor urged these people to take early retirement, invest the money with her, and unfortunately, it did not go well. And 11 years later, most of these individuals were broke. And they were in their late 40s, early 50s when they made this decision to retire. And to me, that if anybody told somebody you can afford to retire under those circumstances with just the information that this individual had, it was criminal. And
Sure.
it really disturbed me. And I got involved with a series of cases, and it was all based on that one concept of, when the attorney called me, said, why, or what did you say? And I said that most people would be best served to take their monthly pension
Mhm.
or the monthly stream of income. So they don't have to worry about investing. They don't have to worry whether it'll come every month. And he's like, you are unlike any financial advisor, financial planner I've ever met. And I said, well, it might be because I don't get paid differently
Mhm.
depending on the answer. I'm telling the attorney, every financial advisor for the most part, well, okay, let me rephrase, everyone, um, if they need to get their hands on that lump sum.
Sure.
And so hence the reason I actually worked with or spoke with the Department of Education and Department of Labor a few times on, the fact that pensions are getting busted. I mean, people aren't choosing to keep their pension intact upon retirement and take monthly distributions. Instead, they're rolling the lump sum over to an IRA. And I said, it's not that the retirees or participants are necessarily choosing to do that. It's that they've heard some presentation or had
Mhm.
some education in their workplace. And, there's also that underlying thing of, oh, if I don't spend it all, it's going to go back to my company. If I
Mhm.
die with money in the account. Well, there is that component potentially. It doesn't go back to your company
That depends on how you structure it,
necessarily. Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
it may go back to the plan, but it
Right.
doesn't go back to the parent company or something. But a lot of people are misled
Sure.
because of the conflicts that many of us have. And as I was talking to my 11-year-old daughter the other day, and we were watching a program that had a lot of pharmaceutical ads on it. And I said, I think it's just silly that these companies are advertising to us because we as individual citizens cannot go out and purchase their products. So there's millions of dollars
Exactly.
trying to get me to buy that yellow pill or that blue pill or the purple
Mhm.
one. And I don't even know what they're for, but those people look so healthy and robust. I want some of
Exactly.
that. And unfortunately, financial services commercials look about the same and they all sound about the same. And so it's really difficult to know, who's really on your side, who is on the same side of the table, who's actually looking about the quality of life type of matters, not just are you getting okay return on your portfolio. If you don't have a roof or you end up with an extra $5,000 or $6,000 insurance premium bill
Mhm.
for a year, because you didn't know to even think about those kind of issues, that's one of the things that um, financial planner gets to focus on is those broad subjects. So the idea of coming together in 2000 to form the Garrett Planning Network enabled me as this island out there going, I'm trying to help people, but I am only as knowledgeable as what I've been exposed to. And then you get together with a lot of peers and you start sharing stories and challenges. And you say, if you had this situation, how would you approach it? And you start getting better because the power of the global mind to solve problems and approach solutions, it's just very, very powerful. And the types of people we tend to attract to our membership are good old-fashioned, high integrity. They obviously didn't get in the business to make the most amount of money the fastest, or they wouldn't be selling their time.
Right.
They'd have to sell it for thousands of dollars an hour. So nobody will pay that. So there's still the humans. We still recognize the value of $1 when somebody's saying, okay, that's going to cost you $1,000 to have me do that. Whereas somebody else might say, oh, I'll take care of that for you. And off of that nest egg, they will pull $1,000 and you won't feel it. You may not even really know it. I know when I have drafts coming out of my bank account, it's, out of mind, out of sight. I don't really feel the pain. But when I have cash in my hand and I have to go, decide whether I really want to part with it,
Right.
it's hard to do. So I try not to use electronics to transfer money or spend money. And, those are just the little tricks that I had to learn on working with myself. And then we spread that to others. So,
and by the way, for everyone listening, you might have caught this really nice bird in the background that's singing Cheryl's praises in the background. There's a bird back there that's just very happy that Cheryl's on this podcast. You can hear it in the background. That is not planned. That's, I guess, divine financial planning intervention, which is pretty cool. What I like about your site, Sheryl, is I was there and it's, how do you get started is how do you choose an advisor? It's very, very basic. I love simplicity, and you have made it simple to where when you go to the next page, you actually can get some tips from Sheryl, but it also gives you interview questionnaires if you want to go and meet with an advisor, and how to search for an advisor. I'm assuming that's in pretty much every single state, but she makes it very, very simple for you to go find, interview, no obligation, and find that fee only planner. And I think that's pretty cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, Stan. It's been one of the hottest topics that I've talked to the media about for probably the last 3 or 4 years, is how to find an advisor that's right for me. And it's sad that happens to be a topic that makes headlines.
But it's such an important one.
It is. It's critical. It's, to me, I also look at it as, we've been trained to go get a second opinion if we have a significant medical issue come up. But why in the world do we not get a second opinion if we're getting ready to make a decision as significant as retirement? And, do we know that we're ready financially? Are we ready mentally? Maybe. Hopefully we feel that and we're enthusiastic about it. But I've met so many very educated, intelligent people that, bless their hearts, they didn't. I mean, someone like myself could look at the nest egg and know it won't work. The amount of income that they needed to live on and the size of their nest egg, you just don't have enough money to support this standard of living. So what do you want to do? You can either cut your lifestyle dramatically, or you can raise your income, or some combination of the two. And so, sometimes we, as Americans, I think, may have it the worst, as far as there's a lot of stimuli out there that gets our attention, and dealing with our personal finances was one of the things that even I like to bury my head in the sand when it comes to taxes. Oh,
Absolutely.
and sometimes insurance.
Sure.
um,
Yep.
you know, these are not sexy topics. They're not interesting. You don't go to the ball game and say, "Hey, you want to hear about my new insurance policy?" No,
No, I don't.
but it sure feels great when you have that moment when you had a bad doctor checkup, or you were fearing one, or you have that glimmer of, oh, we just nearly had an accident, and you
Hmm.
go, thank goodness I've got my stuff together. That if anything happened to me, I'm now a sole parent. My spouse passed away less than
Hmm.
a year ago, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm a single parent. What happens if something happens to me? And I
Right.
haven't updated that stuff yet. Okay, so cobbler's children here.
Come on,
um,
planner. It's time,
we
right?
Yeah, we have to know what needs to be done, and we have
Right.
to be able to get it going. So I feel that one of our highest roles as a certified financial planner is to be the catalyst to help people get where they say they want to go, and
And
help
with
do it most efficiently.
my apologies for interrupting, but I am so excited to share with the listeners. And I want you to go to her site, but I'm going to give it away a little bit. When you search for an advisor, obviously you're going to be able to search by the state of residence.
Hmm.
But what I really, really like, what Sheryl has done and put together with her team, is you can select an option. You can select if you want to do a phone consultation or web.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're military, if you're looking for, if you need questions about real estate investing, if you're a retiree, if you're special needs, if you're looking at stock options
Hmm.
or restricted stock, taxation, unmarried, widowers, um, retirement planning, whether you're bilingual, you need a
Hmm.
specific language, long-term care,
Yeah.
everything. And as I scroll down, what I like about it is like, it's not just find your planner, here's the state, here are the planners. No, no, no.
Hmm.
What specifically do you want to talk about? Insurance planning, mortgage planning,
Hmm.
healthcare, federal employee type planning,
Yeah.
expatriates,
I think
estate planning.
it
You
helps to
you
get us to really broaden our
yes.
thoughts about, oh, yeah, I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. And I like that option because a lot of times, yes, people need fee-only advisors. Yes, people need a broad-based look, but most
Hmm.
people come to the table with a specific issue in mind that they
Absolutely.
really, really want the answer
Uh-huh.
to. And then after that gets done, they can go, okay, phew, let's talk about the
Exactly.
rest. And I think
Right.
that is absolute genius and foresight on your part to put that in there from finding your advisors. Let's
Hmm.
talk about when you go to the site, obviously there's that client portal about, how to
Hmm.
choose your advisor, et cetera. But at the very bottom, under where it shows that you've been in, Bloomberg, Kiplinger, USA Today, Yahoo, AARP, every single thing on the planet, and she deserves it. Um, Financial planners join the network. I've got
Hmm.
a feeling your filter's pretty tough. Tell us about how, if some planner says, yeah, this sounds like great, I'm getting in front of a lot of people. How do you filter the Yahoos out to become Sheryl Garrett disciples?
Well, they have to sign an attestation statement that kind of says, I believe in the same stuff that Cheryl does. And I think this is our 22nd year of existence.
Wow.
And I think we've only had one application where we had to call the individual back and said that would say, we will not accept you. um, that people do inquire that
Sure.
won't be a good fit, but we've never actually gotten a membership application but one time that I recall. There may have been a couple others that there was some conflict, such as if someone has disciplinary disclosures in their record, which is not necessarily all that abnormal.
Hmm.
But on the chapter in on our website that talks about finding an advisor. It's an excerpt from the personal finance workbook for dummies that I wrote, and the publisher gave me permission to excerpt that chapter on finding and interviewing an advisor. And one of the things I say in there is, don't hire anybody with any disciplinary stuff on their record. And we tell would-be advisors that we say that to the public, because there's plenty of people to pick that don't have anything on the record. Now, there's some other nuances to think about. If you worked for a giant company, a giant broker dealer, there's going to be stuff on the disclosure, but it won't necessarily be about the specific advisor, but it'll be about the firm. But we can work through that kind of stuff. But if there's disclosures about the individual, just keep looking. Life's short. There's lots of advisors out there. There's not very many that charge for their time.
That's a shame. And the reason that doesn't happen at the brokerage firms is it's not because that the brokerage firms believe in a asset-based fee-based model. It's not fee-based on the asset under management. It's because it's a very easy way for them to track future revenues. That's it. Don't believe anything else that they tell you, but that's it. I'm on your site also, and I want to kind of read some things and go over some things for the listeners and viewers. And again, you can go to GarrettPlanningNetwork.com, GarrettPlanningNetwork.com. We'll have that link on our site as well. But all of the members within the Garrett Planning Network, they're fee only, meaning that they are prohibited from receiving commissions or any type of compensation for the sale of a product. The compensation is paid directly by the client. All of the people are fiduciaries. I have a little bugaboo about fiduciary. I think if you're in the financial services business, you have to put the person's best interest ahead of yours, but her people are obligated both ethically and legally to do that.
And by choice.
By choice.
We would not do it any other way.
I agree. I don't care what you're doing out here. The other thing I like about it is every one of her members of the Garrett Planning Network has to be accessible. And what that means is they all charge based on the time to provide advice without requiring any type of long-term commitments or minimums or net worth or anything like that. This is a pure fee-only service, which I love. I absolutely love. And I encourage, my listeners and my client base and the people that follow me, when I come, I always say, not only do you might not even need an annuity, but if you need an annuity, you certainly don't need to put a ton of money in annuities, which means what do you do with the rest? So talk about what do you do with the rest or all of it? We're here. We're at the fork in the road. So pick it up. and there are people that can help you in this pure financial planning fashion. I think this is the purest form of financial advice out there. And I applaud you for plowing this field, because I'm sure when you started, people were like, what do you do?
A lot of people in the industry are like, putting their arm around me going, I realize you're young and you're new. Like, I look like a kid at 60. Thank you. Naivete is helpful. And I had a very positive outlook, and I grew up in Kansas, and I was raised that a girl can do anything she sets her mind to. So I was never told I couldn't do it. And when I had spent 11 years in the financial planning arena before I landed upon charging by the hour. And it was
Tell us about that epiphany. What was that moment?
It actually was. I was sharing this desire with an elder care estate planning attorney. And he said, that sounds a lot like the national network of estate planning attorneys. And we started talking, and I talked to him about the fact that, basically by charging by the hour, it's more like how he charged his clients
Mm-hmm.
for, consulting with them about an elder care issue or designing an estate plan. He might charge, a certain amount of hours for that project and just, by the hour for the elder care stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I want to charge that way. And, I also have others that want to do this. And, I think we need to, instead of being part of a large company where you have to pay for the overhead and the managers and, the bureaucracy, and does it add anything to the bottom line, having your own research department, having your own mutual funds or own products or whatever, is that necessary? Or are there other places you can get it? And at that time, you can get that stuff elsewhere. There are lots of mutual fund companies that are available for us to go directly to them. A lot of insurance companies we can work with directly, or we go to specialized participants that are experts in those
Mm-hmm.
areas. And so, to simply be able to, work on what somebody needs us to focus on. One project that I did that helps to illustrate the power or the uniqueness of financial planning over investment advice, was a couple came to me that they were in their 50s and they wanted to see if they could take advantage of a job offer. They were living in Kansas City, both employed, and she had been offered a position in Boston. Cost of living significantly higher, cost of or the wages also considerably higher.
Mm-hmm.
However, the husband or had a very unique, specialized kind of field that he was in, and they didn't anticipate he would be able to find a like position as quickly. Like it could take a couple of years, maybe. And we wanted to be really conservative about his income potential. Since actually in this case, hers was the biggest component of the overall, it was pretty easy to illustrate. And so the couple came in not knowing, they were enthused by the offer, but they didn't know if it would derail their long-term, if we took, they came to me and they said, if we take this or if we do this, would it just completely decimate our plans for 10 years from now? I mean, would this be
Mm-hmm.
a stupid financial decision? And
Mm-hmm.
so we spent like 2.5 hours figuring it out, and were able to answer that with some clarity that they could consciously feel very confident about what they decide. Before it was just gut instinct, and that freed them up to, oh, okay, now can we look at this next thing, and can we look at this next thing? So they needed an opportunity to get to know somebody, develop some trust and working relationship, and understanding how you talk to each other, and then they found out what it was like, to work with a financial planner on their side, and it was, oh, this is so different than anything I ever imagined or experienced. So I heard that mostly from all of my clients that I was seeing
Mm-hmm.
in Kansas City as an hourly advisor. Most of them had not been to an advisor ever, or they hadn't been to somebody they referred to as their advisor. They might have visited with
Interesting.
someone,
Yeah.
but they didn't choose to call them an advisor, even if they worked with them at some point or did business.
Well, the interesting part about the financial planning world is anyone can truly call themselves a financial planner.
Mm-hmm.
There's no minimum experience, and you don't need an education
Yeah.
background, et cetera. Even though there's some places like Texas Tech that have
Mm-hmm.
actual degrees and master's degrees, and I'm assuming they
And
certainly know
PhD.
you, and you've
Uh-huh.
talked with them,
Uh-huh.
Dina Katz and everybody. But when you work with Cheryl's organization, the Garrett Planning Network, you can rest assured that that person is going to be working in your best interest. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really all people are looking for.
Yeah.
They know you're not
They
a
expect that.
magician, but they want to know that they can have a conversation with the person
Mm-hmm.
that's going to use as I always say, the best advisors use their mouth and their ears in proportion.
Exactly.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple questions for you because you piqued my interest when you talked about predictions, and I'm not going to hold you to any of this, but since you are somewhat of a visionary in the financial
But
field,
remember, I'm always early, everyone.
I understand, but that's good. Um, there's always things happening in the world, and every
hmm
time that we feel like there's a bunch of black swan events, there's always been
hmm
black swan events and things that are happening. But where do you see things going from a financial planning standpoint, how people manage money? We see the birthing of things like Robinhood and
hmm
applications to try to get people involved at a younger age at a very low
Right.
level, which I on the surface I see no problems
hmm
with that. Where is this all headed? Because we're both kind of the same age, so we saw it go from transactional to then
hmm
assets under management fee
hmm
to then Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, Vanguard to now. I think the maturation of what you're doing finally. I mean, you're a 20-year overnight sensation, as they say.
hmm
The fee only model and just charging for time, which I think is so good. What's next, Sheryl?
What next needs to be, we need a heck of a lot more of us. Um,
Okay.
I computed in late 90s that we would need about, if I'm recalling right, we'd need something like 300,000 advisors just to approach 2% of the population.
Wow.
So there's an enormous opportunity in providing advice by the hour. It's still rare. It's because the work is on the advisor to keep track of their time and justify,
Mhm.
you know, I spent X amount of time on this and hopefully it's meaningful to you. But it is harder, but it should be. If we're going to charge a nice hefty fee and provide good value to people, you
Mhm.
know, it can't be easy, but it's so rewarding. Most Americans don't realize that there are options to hiring an advisor and paying for their time only.
Mhm.
That's one of the huge areas. The second area is if they do contact us, will they be able to find an advisor that's available soon in their area? And so it's kind of a catch-22
Right.
because the advisory public and the consuming public, consumers of advice, kind of have to grow together. And we've seen a little bit of that, but there's far more acceptance and desire in the consumer of advice category than there are in the providers thus far. But it's changing, and I think it's changing very rapidly. When I talk to college campuses and talk to some of the
Mhm.
newer folks coming out of college, they want to do something unique, different, and in a way that their actual friends and classmates could hire them.
And
And
fulfilling.
so,
And fulfilling. I
and
think
and
that
fulfilling
the
to
people like you are passionate. And I
uh-huh,
think it runs contrary to the financial services business of get in the financial services business, go to Wall Street, make as much money as humanly possible. I used to work in World Trade Center too a long time ago. And so
uh-huh.
I was in that culture of go, 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 make as much money as humanly possible. But I think that fortunately the younger generation, I'm speaking for my daughters,
hmm
they're not into that. And they're
Right,
more into it being fulfilling what they're doing and it feels good and it's right and they're doing good things
right.
for the world. I think there's a possibility that the
hmm
new group of advisors that this will be what they know, whereas
Uh-huh.
people like me and you that were in the business a long time ago, we've kind
hmm
of seen it all. I was around. You'll love this story with Dean Witter when the guy came in and the vice president and talked to all this advisors and wealth architects,
Uh-huh.
whatever they were calling us, and said, "I really don't see a threat with like online trading and things like that." I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "You're the dumbest person on the planet." So, it's
Yeah,
kind
for
of
a
like the
while.
it's kind of like the IBM executive a long time ago saying he didn't see the need for a personal computer in everyone's
Uh-huh.
home. And you're like, okay. So going back to my original, outside the box just a little bit, not just
hmm
in the planning world. Um, Tell us about your insights and foresight into money, the way money works
hmm
going into the future, and that might throw in crypto and all kinds of
hmm
new and weird stuff that's happening. How are you advising clients on those type of things?
Well, I don't advise individual clients, but
But
all
I'm
of the
just saying
listeners
that
can
your
pretend they're
advisors,
my
yeah,
clients. Yeah.
yes.
Um, there's a few areas that I'm really focusing on of late, and that is, I mean, one of the areas that we've long been focusing on is controlling what you can control. Uh, when you take taxes or taxable gains, how much you pay in fees. Um, when you receive income or when you choose to make an expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
We, as a society, I don't think we've necessarily taken on or owned as much of our responsibility for, making those decisions and knowing that we have control over those things. Maybe not full control, but we do choose. And now we're learning that there's a heck of a lot more that we can influence.
Mm-hmm.
Need to be a lot more aggressive, most of us, I'm generalizing, about our cash flow. And we need to
Mm-hmm.
be a lot more aggressive about, and when I say aggressive about our cash flow, we need to really be conscious of where our money's going and where it's coming from, where it will in the future. And think of things like, is there anything I could do to create a form of income, such as the property for sale, or there's a property for sale next door, and it has a rundown house on it that I want to fix up. That's actually a true story.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
um, and then the house I'm setting in, we built right after that. And so I have a rental house next door because it happened to be sitting on the land that was surrounding our log cabin resort.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make sense for us to secure that. And it was a very, very good price. And now I have someone living in the house, and the rent that they pay pays the mortgage on the piece of land that I wanted to buy. And, so I basically got it for free.
There you go.
And, helping families or young couples in caring for a family member, or setting up an income suite in their, out of part of their house, to make it go, their housing go further. With another lady, she either needed to rent out her basement or significantly downsize her
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. And I had been acquainted with some people with our county's Department on Aging, and they have a wonderful program where they match up older people with younger people, students, and or other older people, to see, if they could cohabitate and in a prosperous way for the two of them. And one of my client's children introduced her to the project. Then she got into it, and this client, I've learned so much from my clients about planning and planning strategies. This was
Mm-hmm.
all brought to me by a client, which she learned it from her 22-year-old. The 22-year-old moved in while she was going to college. She moved in with an elderly person who needed care at night. They only needed somebody to be there to help make sure that they were okay. It really wasn't a care, a nursing type of position or anything like that. It was just housing,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to stay here every night, and make sure I took my meds and that kind of thing. Well, this woman the mother ended up doing the same thing. She didn't own a vehicle. She drove a company. She was a repair person,
Mm-hmm.
worked for a large company, and she drove a company vehicle, lived in an elderly man's home that she cared for 12 years at the time of this story.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time she was in her mid 40s, she had nearly $500,000 in her 401k plan, and she
Wow.
never made over $45,000 a year
Wow.
because she found in her community that would enable her to have more life with less money. And she loved her activities and the freedoms that those kinds of things bring. And so learning strategies that will help in that way. So increasing income, that's one of the first areas that I go to, and see if there's any way. And it might be different ways. But right now, with such a housing shortage, or a lower income, lower priced rental properties, or for sale properties, having an additional dwelling unit or something like that on your in your yard or on your property, potentially even investing in some of these projects.
Right.
So I've explored some of those. Really be cutthroat about our expenses and think about, I'm a strong believer in experiences over things, as far as lasting, meaningful memories. And so many of the things, our Americans have more things than anybody else
No
in
doubt.
history. And, to take on a little bit of a minimalist idea and start to purge, and, maybe it's even, it's somewhere between how do we get rid of all this stuff, or how do we maybe sell it and bring in a little income. And then the whole area of sustainable lifestyles, kind of like sustainable agriculture, or where we have a sustainable garden, that everything is, like my front yard is a mini orchard, and everything is perennial. So once it's planted and established, it takes minimal care. That's what I like to accomplish in someone's financial life, is, get all of the things set up, that once they're set up, a little minimal care will keep them in order. But gosh, if one of the things we're concerned about is independence, I argue that you can't achieve financial independence with just money. I mean, maybe that's the literal definition, but the money has to be turned into other things. You have to buy healthcare, you have to buy food, you have to buy utilities. But what if you're generating your own your own electricity, and you have the ability to store it? What if you're generating a good amount of your own food, or at least in my case, fruit?
Right.
We have a lot of local gardeners and a lot of growers in the area, and so I don't feel really motivated in that regard. But to be independent to a large degree in the food area, I'm also vegetarian, so that makes it easy. The chickens are coming this summer, guinea fowl, and so I have a water, energy, and
so it's lifestyle. I mean, I tell people all the time,
security in the lifestyle. It's
Right.
the sustainability of it.
I always tell
and
my
we have
clients,
to,
I tell them, excuse me, I say, listen, there's no U-Hauls behind hearses. Okay.
right.
And you need to live your life. A lot of my things are Southernisms, but I agree with you totally. I coming up on the end of the segment here, and I wanted to cover a couple items and then turn it back to you one last time. First thing is that I was thinking about this network that you put together, and I think if you hired someone within the Garrett Planning Network, an advisor, fee only, there's an added benefit that I don't think Sheryl promotes enough. And I think that added benefit is, yes, you're going to get an advisor locally that's fee only. And yes, they're going to be fiduciary. And yes, they're going to have your best interest at hand. But you're also hiring the other people in the network because they have annual retreats and they have conferences and they share best practices and they share stories and they share ideas. So in essence, you're leveraging off of what Sheryl's built with your one advisor. So I think that is unbelievable. Yes, there are some great advisors out there, but nobody has.
We don't know it all.
All of the perks. They really don't. They really don't.
Thank you for that, Stan. I haven't really spoken to it from the client's perspective. I think of it more from the advisor's perspective of how luxurious is it to have a situation come up, and you can turn to your colleagues and say, okay, guys, here's what I've got going on.
Yes.
What would you do?
Yes.
And you can get all kind. And in fact, I've done that a bunch of times.
All right,
I did that.
we're adding a page to your website. Okay, I mean, honestly, it's called the leveraging the brains.
The brain power,
Something
the
like that.
collective.
But I think that's also a hidden benefit to this. Obviously, you're getting advice in its purest form. One last thing,
There's,
I
have to share one other
Yeah.
thing with you, Stan.
Go ahead.
There's a new, well, it's not new, but something that happened after I stopped working with individual clients, that if I was going back to work with individual clients, I'd be doing this all the time. And it's something we call real-time planning, where often we may talk on over the phone for a brief while, and then we get together, and it can be done remotely as well. But we have a real-time planning session, and for like 2 hours, we just roll up our sleeves and work together. And at the end of that time, I'll follow up with a report saying, a report that's like 1 page, this is what we need to do, you need to do, and this is what you decided, and so forth. And so there's a noticeable, instant gratification from working with an advisor. I mean, you don't have to wait for advice to be prepared, and that you can get direction immediately on certain things. A lot of us don't do that for investment portfolios. We might do general guidance at that kind of level. But if you're looking about a decision regarding relocating, life change, just getting started in a relationship, or just getting started with a planner, that can be a great way to do it.
Yep.
Because the total cost, it's usually say $500 to $700. And you get a chance for a limited amount of money to really, get organized, have your questions ready. They'll send you a questionnaire of some sort to lay out your stuff, so you can think about your financial life, and really be ready to use that time with that advisor as well as possible. And it's thoroughly, it's a mind-blowing thing. We've our group has led training through this, and I had a number of advisors providing hourly advice for a long time, and then they went through this level of training, and they said, it is mind-blowing what you can accomplish in 90 minutes if you have to.
Well, and also too, when people know that they're not going to get sold a product, they're going to get listened to, and they're going to get good advice.
Yeah. When I got into the business, I started with IDS, which is now Ameriprise, and where a lot of us started. And people wouldn't even tell me that they had a CD coming due next year.
Sure.
Whereas I went fee only, and people came in and they just dumped all their original statements on our desks and said, I'll see you later. And it's like, hold it. Now that's an extreme the other direction.
I remember that. They used to tell us when we were first starting out, and I was with Dean Woodard, like, don't believe that they're telling you everything that they have. And they kept saying that. Every place I went, they'd say that. I'm like, in this situation, they do. My apologies for interrupting you earlier, but I'm dying to hear this because with every one of my guests, I have something at the end that I don't tell them about, that they're going to have to, yep, this is like this is one of those things that you had to be prepared for. You almost have already done it. And what I call it's the mic drop moment, and you get 30 seconds when I say go to give really sage advice in 30 seconds, like a elevator speech. But I think you've already done it. You said financial independence doesn't revolve around your money. And I was like, well, that's actually a mic drop moment. But because, you're who you are, Sheryl Garrett, pioneers, take all the arrows, visionary in the financial planning world. All right, here comes the mic drop moment. Go.
The future is going to be dictated by the receivers, as it should have been. Those of us who get stuff, need stuff, or we're going to speak up and ask for it how we want it. We want clear, transparent, and immediate if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes immediate's unreasonable, but there's no reason we can't have clear. And the transparent is, we don't want to be screwed or taken advantage of or, treated as anything other than intelligent beings. And being able to be where the humans are is, what we've strove for with, charging for our time. Mm-hmm. And now being able to do like a real-time planning engagement, doing virtual planning, we can see people where they're at the time, where they're at in their heart and their head, but also physically and geographically, so we don't have to be there, but then be able to charge them just for that, exchange, if you will. And so, it sounds like we've gone back to transactional. A better word in my viewpoint might be periodic. Okay. That, kind of like you go to the dentist and you pay for services when you go, but you don't stop going. If you stop going, that would be a bad thing. So, the bottom line is consumers should be driving industries. And I feel that this is where, at least for one aspect of the delivery advice, it's buy time, and we're right in the sweet spot of it. So I absolutely believe that's the future. Perfect. I've been early, but it is. I haven't changed my mind.
But you've been right, and the person that's early and right, her name is Sheryl Garrett, and we really appreciate you being on Fun with Annuities. Hope you join us next time. And I want to thank everybody on all the major podcast platforms and the Fun with Annuities YouTube channel for joining us. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Fun with Annuities. Please hit the subscribe button and make sure to go to my site at theannuityman.com, where you can run your own SPIA, DIA, and QLAC quotes and see a live feed of the best MYGA fixed rates in the country, and even get indexed and income rider quotes as well. You can also sign up for my 6 Annuity Owner's Manual books, and I'll ship them for free and under no obligation. I also encourage you to schedule a one-on-one call with me, Stan the Annuity Man, so we can have a full discussion of your specific situation. It will be the best brutally factual and truthful advice you will ever get, and that's one guarantee you should definitely take advantage of. So join me next time for the #1 annuity podcast on the planet, Fun with Annuities.